when it comes to the ethics, probably it's carrying a 15% weightage as a part of the exam, but most of the times it is like practicing as many questions as possible, because if we look at it at a very broad scale, it is nothing but some of the good practices that we follow as a part of we need to follow as a part of a CFA profession, as a part of investment analysis. So probably if we look at it on a very broad scale, it appears as if we know all these things, right? Probably what is good to do, what is not good to do. But the kind of questions that are typically framed are from the perspective that there could be minute glitches here and there in the options, right? Probably the question would come out as in this case, I mean some scenario would be given, and finally says, is this a violation against the code of ethics, right? So there is a very minute difference that is existing between option choice A, B, C. So to really understand whether it's a violation or not, rather than trying to read each of the point in detail, look at the examples that are given in the book, right? Okay, in this scenario, this is a violation. Why? Read through it in that manner. It gets, I mean, one, you can read through the small caselet with some interest. Okay, this guy started, I mean, he has given some kind of a solution to the client. So the client has actually given him some kind of a gift as a recognition of his solution. Now, did this guy violate or did not violate the code of ethics? So, such kind of questions would be. So, probably if you look at that example, even in the book, there could be some kind of an explanation for you saying this is not a violation because it was initially treated as a part of the agreement itself, that if the profits cross this much, this has to be paid. So I would look at it as a compensation rather than any kind of an undue benefit gift. So once you read through the various examples, it comes out that, okay, in what cases should I treat this as a violation and in what cases it is not a violation, right? So here I would just cover briefly in the various aspects which are discussed and some of the core points, but the major part of it lies in you reading through the various examples that are highlighted itself. So typically some of the key things, probably you don't see anything big in them. The professional conduct is something which each one of us have to follow as a part of our profession, and probably as a part of the taker of the exam also. It starts right from this stage itself. So these are the rules of the procedure relating to the professional conduct, and there is a disciplinary review committee of the CFA Institute, wherein it says the board of governors are the overall responsible, not board of governors not of the company but the CFA Institute. The board of governors of the CFA Institute have the overall responsibility for the professional conduct program. So they can keep changing the standards and code of conduct. They can even cross-examine whosoever have violated it, and they can even get into an inquiry, all these things for any kind of a violations they receive, that some X has violated some kind of a code of conduct. So there could be, I mean, after proper investigation, it could very well the designated officer by the board of governors, they can very well come out that no disciplinary action can be taken, just like any other case. Somewhere in BCCI or some other boards also, we see similar kind of things happening, right? Either a disciplinary action will be taken or some kind of show cause notice will be issued, right? So some kind of cautionary letter can come out, or some kind of a disciplinary action which could go from a very low level of punishment to even revocating of your CFA designation, and all these things also could typically happen as a part of the code of a violation of the code of ethics. So some of the things that are being discussed here, probably they look as if they are all good manners, good practices kind of thing, right? Act with integrity, competence, diligence, respect. We all know these, and in an ethical manner with the public, with the clients and the prospective clients, employers, employees, colleagues, and all other people in the investment market, and place the integrity of the profession and the interest of the clients above the personal interest. I mean, these are all ideological, right? Saying, okay, for me, work is more than my personal interest. Of course, this everyone knows. So the examples that are typically taken will have small deviations. So that is what we need to identify with utmost care and mark the appropriate answer. Sometimes the answers would be confusing, and that's where the more and more you practice the examples, that confusion will go off, because theoretically we may find, yeah, all of them are looking much closer. So, but when you are looking at the example in reality, that is where you will see, oh, this is a violation because of these reasons. So, use reasonable care and exercise independent professional judgment. We'll talk about this. When you are giving a judgment, make sure that it is not a biased opinion of some of your colleagues. Sometimes we are very much into the habit of copy pasting. So probably someone else's recommendation we may pose it as our recommendation. Even those things are a violation. So make it, and even independence also talks about from the dimension of don't get influenced in your decision just because someone has paid you much more to give a decision in his favor. Like, okay, if some company is not performing good, but still you are compensated from the other company. See, someone said, okay, you give a buy rating on our company and we will give you this much, right? So probably because of that you are changing your decision. Though this company is not doing a good kind of a company, you give your rating saying, yeah, this company has an excellent future. That means you are getting biased. You are not making your decision independently. You are biased with the kind of gift you are receiving from the other party. So probably these are all like, this is not a compensation. This is not a challenge. Because otherwise you could have given a sell decision on the company shares. But now you are giving a buy decision just because you are getting a different compensation from the client. These kind of things you have to avoid. Make sure that you are taking reasonable care and exercise in making your decision independent. Even any analysis you are doing, any recommendation you are making, or making anyone invest or pull out investments in anything, all these have to be taken with reasonable care itself. And it's also talking about make everyone practice in a professional and ethical manner. Every company talks about these kind of things as a part of their regular work practice itself. But yeah, now that we are getting into a CFA profession also talks from these dimensions itself. So anything integrity of the capital market and all, please maintain all those things. Professional competence, make sure that you upgrade your skills regularly so that you can give better advice to the customers on a regular note. From that dimension, it is talking about the 7 various aspects for us. So the 7 major standards. One is from a professionalism standpoint. One is maintaining the integrity of the capital markets. Then how do you behave with your clients? How do you behave with your employers? And what do you do as a part of the investment analysis you are providing? If at all there are some conflict of interest between your party A and party B, how do you try to get into those kind of conflicts? And finally relating to the exam and CFA membership and all those things, the responsibilities from that dimension. So coming to the professionalism, it has identified a few aspects like it's better that you know the law. Again, law from the perspective of especially associated with the investments part. Majorly relating to regulatory bodies, any licensing agencies that are there, especially relating to your profession. Some law relating to SEBI rules, some laws relating to any other, like if you are getting into investment, insurance kind of investment, what does the IRDS Act and all talk about? Or how does, so wherever, whatever are linked to your investment decisions, mutual funds, what are the acts relating to the mutual funds? So have an understanding about the law. And CFA also provides some kind of understanding about the good practices. What it says is, if both of them conflict, go for the stricter one. In generally, the laws of the country are more stricter than the laws of CFA Institute. So wherever the country is having its law which is in conflict with the CFA Institute's laws, always go with the country. But if the country doesn't have any specific law associated with that particular aspect, then CFA's laws will take the precedent. And the rest of the things are fair enough, like do not knowingly participate or associate in any violations, or even dissociate from any of the known violations, and know the law and regulation relating to the complete professional activities and the businesses that are conducted in that country. Because if you are doing a consulting, let's say in India versus doing a consulting in Singapore, before you do any kind of investment consulting in Singapore, try to understand what is the law specific to Singapore with respect to the investment decisions and making the people buy or sell particular securities, those kind of things. Try to understand what is the impact of each of them, because law in each of the country could be different as far as the different financial products are concerned. So be aware of all of them. Comply with the applicable laws and regulations relating to the professional activities. Do not violate the code of standards and always adhere to the more stricter rules. Disassociate or separate from any ongoing client or employee activity that is unethical and illegal. So even if you are under pressure also, sometimes these are the things, like in reality it may so come out that your employer is pressurizing you to do these kind of activities. Now what will you do? Probably on one side you have to say, I have to be more loyal to my employer. I have to keep my employer's interest more than my personal interest. But here it is also saying, if at all you know that it is an illegal activity, disassociate yourself. So this has to take priority compared to that. Though there are 2 points, and in that example, both the points are getting applicable. But this will take a priority on the top of that. Being loyal to your employer is to the extent of it should be better than your personal interest as long as it is in the legal part. But if it is illegal, disassociate yourself and at the same time inform the relevant parties and all whosoever are involved, or talk to the employer. These kind of things do come up whenever you are seeing someone else is violating these kind of norms. While a member may confront the involved individual first, he must approach his supervisor or the compliance department. In case someone else is feeling that is not behaving ethically, that information has to be brought to the notice of the supervisor or even the compliance department of the organization. And when we are talking about independence, use the reasonable care and judgment, maintain independence. This is an important point. Must not offer, solicit or accept any gift, benefit or compensation. It's not, the point is here that reasonably could be expected to compromise their own or another's independence or objectivity. If you are giving a decision which will suppress the other person because this guy is giving you a good money, see, it doesn't mean that, see, there is a difference here between the level of service and the payment you are receiving for that. You say gold customer, silver customer and normal customers. That is not a violation. From a gold customer you can charge heavily, From a silver customer, you can charge moderate, and from a regular customer, you can charge lesser. And the advice could be different to three different groups of people. But what it is clearly saying is, don't give an advice to this gold customer at the expense of the regular customer. It should not happen that the gold customer benefits, but the regular customer will lose out. Intentionally, don't suppress the regular customer to benefit your gold customer. That is a violation of ethic. Right? See, you may say, okay, for the gold customers, I'll provide 50 recommendations in a month. Whereas for my regular customers, I'll provide 5 recommendations in a month. Fair enough. Nothing wrong in that. Or probably you may say, for my gold customers, I'll provide recommendations 10 minutes in advance to the regular customers. No harm in it. But you should not say that I'll provide as, if at all it is identified that this guy is being provided a benefit and the other guy is getting suppressed, that is where the actual violation could come out, because you are not taking a decision independently and objectively. That is what is the independence aspect. Do not let the investment process be influenced by any external sources. It doesn't mean that you should not take gift. You take a gift, but that gift should not intentionally make you change your decision. Right? Sometimes for a regular investment decision, probably if you are receiving a state of the art building or state of the art car, probably that is where you might have compromised somewhere as a part of your decision making process. Allocation of the shares in an oversubscribed IPO to the personal accounts. Right? Probably when shares are oversubscribed, you have to allot them in a proportionate manner. But probably if you are allocating major number of shares to your own personal accounts and ignoring the others, these kind of things are treated as violations. So you have to clearly distinguish between the gifts, because your clients will keep giving you some kind of gifts or the other as a token of your appreciation. So you have to differentiate them from the gifts. If the client is happy with his work and he is giving you something, it's not a problem. But if the client is giving you something with an intention to make you do something else, that is where it's a violation. Right? So these kind of twisted, tricky questions is what that can come up. Gift must be disclosed to the member's employer in any case. If you are doing it as a part of the company, if the client has given you any gift, you have to disclose this information to your employer. Disclosures are one of the major things that come as a part of this ethics. Then the other dimension we are talking about is the misrepresentation part. No misrepresentation relating to the investment analysis. Misrepresentation is even if a company is not doing good, saying that this company is doing good, or either a part of the recommendations or actions or anything. Because in the investment profession, like most other professions, trust is the most important activity. And no false impressions, even in oral communication. Sometimes this is one area where we lag a lot. See, sometimes just by some other person talking about something, or probably in a group we discuss something and come out, oh, economy is not going to do well in the next 1 year. We just come out, just as a small discussion we have in our informal group, or see something on Facebook and immediately come back and say and make a statement as a part of your recommendation. I'm expecting that the economy to fall in the next 1 year. As an investment analyst in that profession, you're not supposed to make such kind of misrepresentations. You can't mislead people unless you have done thorough analysis on that, unless you have the facts and things to back it up. Otherwise, please make it as a differentiation between the fact and the opinion. There is a difference between these two, right? Fact is something which has already occurred and you have a source for it. Whereas opinion is something which you are framing based on whatever you have seen elsewhere. Whatever the facts, based on the facts, you have come to some opinion. That is your own personal. But fact is not personal. Fact is universal. Right? And so misrepresentations, including the guaranteeing investment performance, even this is one major aspect. Right? Most of the times we see in the insurance space, I have observed so many examples like this. You take our policy, there will be a guaranteed returns of 12% every year. Or probably a lot of mutual fund guys also, as a part of the sales process, they do all these things. They'll give you 12% return. But that guaranteed, as an investment professional, you have to understand high return will come only with high risk. There is no free lunch. So you have to make sure that your client understands that yes, we can work for 12%, but nothing is assured. Right? So using, or probably when we are talking about the most important aspect, copy paste, using someone else's work without giving credit to them. It's not that you should not use, but probably you can write it as a source picked from this, but it has to be in line with what you are writing. Don't confuse people with you talking about something, but the source which you have pulled out is from somewhere else, which is giving an opposite perspective of what you are planning to talk, because too much of copy paste can give all those kind of problems. Right? And misconduct known. Don't engage in any activity involving dishonesty, fraud, or any of those things. Discourage unethical behavior, and do not abuse CFA Institute's professional conduct program by seeking enforcement of this standard to settle personal, professional, or political kind of. Sometimes they say, I'm a CFA. Sometimes you use some of the designations to blackmail the other parties. In some cases, probably in typical movies, we hear these dialogues, I'm the son of so and so. Right? I mean, don't use that kind of thing for wrong and illegal kind of purposes. I know these things. I belong to this profession. I am a qualified this person. Those are like you are using your designation and qualification for wrongdoings and illegal activities. Then when we are talking from the dimension of integrity of the capital markets, this is more to do with having material non-public information. There are two words here. Some information is material, some information is non-public. See, non-public is the company has not yet shared with the public. Some board meeting discussion. Not yet shared with the public, that becomes a non-public. What is material? By sharing it with someone else, if the decision could change, right? Probably by someone knowing that information, the buy-sell part could be changed. Decision could change. That is what we call it as material. If the disclosure of that information would impact the price of the security, right? Probably when I say, okay, this company's sales have doubled compared to the last year, which is a fact which has happened in the last year. When you have the last year numbers versus this year's numbers, everyone can make out that yeah, this company's sales have doubled. But probably if you say, oh, this company is planning to venture into, I mean, in the boardroom, probably the board has discussed that will venture into an airline business next year. Now that's still not yet finalized, nothing happened on that, but in the boardroom, a small discussion has happened. Now, if that information, if the outsider comes to know, probably it can impact the share price either on the higher side or on the lower side, but it has some impact. Wherever that news has some kind of an impact on the price, we call that kind of an information as material information. So, in case you have access to material non-public information, make sure that you don't reveal them, leak them, and use them to your advantage. Probably the best example is of our ex-ISB chairman, who was sent to jail just because he has leaked some of the boardroom information to one of his friends. The same scenario. So the punishment could go even to that extent, right? So that is what we are talking about, material. So we have to be very careful answering these kind of pieces. Ambiguous information, as far as its likely effect on the price, is not material. See, sometimes, okay, the price can go up or go down, right? If some information is there, okay, the CEO of the company may change. We are not saying who will come, right? We are simply, we have an information, let's change the CEO of the company. Or probably CEO of the company is going to get retired. There it could be material as well as non-material. If everyone thinks this CEO was an extraordinary CEO, if he is going to move out, probably the company performance is expected to go down. Share prices will go down. So there is a material information where you are seeing one side movement. But if I say, oh, this CEO, even if he is there, he is not there, may or may not be a big difference. Probably now the Prime Minister may change. Even if he changes or doesn't change, if it doesn't make any big difference to the country, then probably that's considered as non-material. But if you say that some X is going to become the Prime Minister, if that's an internal discussion, but it has been leaked to the public through some internal sources. Now, if that can change before it comes to the public itself, if someone has leaked that information to some specific parties, that is what we are treating it as a violation, because it is material and it is non-public. Material and non-public information. So whenever we are talking about non-public, until it is available to the market, conference calls, the boardroom meetings, these are going as a part of the non-public kind of an information. So then again, one more important aspect in this is, there is no violation when a perceptive analyst reaching an investment conclusion about a corporate action or an event through the analysis of public information. Like, okay, I mean, probably from whatever the news articles or something, let's say as an analyst you are saying, oh, this company can acquire some XYZ. It's not your boardroom meeting discussion. You did not attend the boardroom of that company, right? You did not get information from any other source. But sometimes, based on the economic events that are happening between the two countries, right? Nowadays, even in our political world, we are hearing these statements. Some X party is working under the shadow of some Y party, right? Is it probably it may be a boardroom information, it may not be a boardroom information, but based on how these both the political parties are working, probably some external analysts are coming to a conclusion that there could be a kind of a secret agreement between these two political parties and they are working together. It could very much be possible even in the business world. Probably if we understand our political world better, business world can easily be understood. I mean, the ethics in our political world, the moment you understand them, they all can be taken into the business world. Lot of examples, if we see, they correlate very well with our political world examples. Then, market manipulation. Sometimes we have seen one person, or probably a couple of examples were there in our stock markets, where one person had had reacted in such a way that the share prices have fallen down drastically in no time. Share prices have gone up drastically on a single day. So, if you are using your profession to manipulate the market prices, creating artificial internal trading volumes by playing with the system or by playing with any aspect, if you are inflating the prices or deflating the prices drastically, or even spreading false rumors, right? Sometimes, I mean, we have faced a few years back, there were extraordinary set of rumors about one of the premium banks in the country, right? Lot of I mean, lot of rumors spreading around that people were standing in the ATM queues withdrawing their whole amounts on a regular. I mean, probably you see big queues for that. I mean, spreading some kind of false rumors about the performance of a particular company. All these are treated, and if it comes to know, if it is known that it's you who are responsible for that, it's a serious violation of the code of conduct. Then, as far as the duties to the clients are concerned, so look at the client's interests and act in the benefit of the client. Put client's interests above the employer's or your own personal interests. So probably it's like client, employer, and personal. This is the order in which the typical interest setting has to be done. But there are a couple of things to be very much looked at. Client interest always comes first, and exercise the prudence, care, diligence. So whenever you are working with your client, please understand that you have to do in-depth research while providing some kind of advice to your client. But this is what: manage pools of clients in accordance with the terms of the government governing documents. Any kind of a trust agreements you have, make sure that you sign all those details. Some clients will ask for non-disclosures, or I mean, non-disclosure is a very mandatory thing. No information of the client should be given to the some other client. Sometimes we have a very simple habit of saying, yeah, I'm already managing this particular client just for our sales relationship. Well, sometimes they are managing with this particular client and I have invested in ABCD for him. Probably I have this client is fine, but I am investing in ABCD for him in this proportion, so you also please invest in the same proportion. That's a kind of, because the confidentiality of this client has to be maintained. What is his investment portfolio and all, you should not leak it to some your other client to take an advantage out of the situation. So, and sometimes, see, the clients actually give you the responsibility to vote proxies also, because as we discussed in corporate governance also, see, if I have two shares and the annual general meeting is happening somewhere in Delhi, just for my two votes I don't need to travel all the way to Delhi and vote, right? So probably I could give the proxy to my investment advisor and ask him to vote on my behalf. Now this investment advisor will be having 100 such clients, so he can do the voting on behalf of all the clients as a person. So here he should not use that for his personal advantage. Probably if some people said, yeah, vote in favor of that, whereas someone say vote against that, make sure that all those representations are done properly. And so sometimes it may not be necessary to vote for all the proxies, and the brokerages and all, whatever negotiations you are doing, make sure that all those negotiations are not for you but for your client. They should benefit the client and not the individual. I mean, it doesn't mean that it should not benefit the individual, but it has to be clearly specified. Whatever you are doing, whatever the negotiation you are doing with the other party, it should be more first benefiting your client, then anything is left that is benefiting you. So then we are talking about dealing fairly and objectively with all the clients. Yeah. Do not discriminate any client when disseminating the recommendation. Means don't ask these guys to buy and don't ask these guys to sell at the same time. Right? Making these guys to really benefit from it, whereas these guys to really lose out from it. That is what we are talking of fairly. Fairly doesn't mean equally. You can charge them high, you can charge them less. But it should not benefit these guys at the expense of these guys. Right? So benefiting these guys by giving them more frequent advice. Yes, you have charged them more, so you will do a premium service for them. You will have one personal relationship manager for them. That's nothing wrong. Whereas for the others, probably for 10 such clients, you will have one relationship manager. Whereas here you will have a personal relationship manager. No, nothing wrong in that. But it should not happen that you are making this guy win and making these guys lose. There will be differences in times where emails, faxes and information is levied at different points. Different service levels are okay, but they should not negatively affect or disadvantage to some other client. That is one thing we have to see as a part of our case question. Disclose the different service levels to all the clients. Say these are, if you pay this much, we'll treat you as a premium client, and these are what we are doing for our premium clients. So let the client decide what category he would like to enroll himself to, because everything is disclosed. Now it's up to the client how much he wants to pay and what kind of service he wants to take from you. You are not hiding any information. If you don't disclose any information and still provide some personalized service to a specific client, or you enroll him as a regular client but provide a premium service, these are some of the places where, if identified, they go as a part of the violation. Right? Give all clients a fair opportunity to act upon every recommendation. Treat clients fairly in light of their investment objectives, and should not take advantage of their position in the industry to disadvantage other clients. Right? Okay, probably as the chief minister has invested in my portfolio. So just to make the chief minister win always, because you may have some personal gains out of it, you don't make your other investors suffer, because this guy is a premium guy in the market. So I should make sure that this guy's portfolio is always at not at a loss. So these kind of things should not be followed. As an investment analyst, your job is to make sure, probably he might have paid you more. It's your job. It's your, probably you can put one more extra person to research into his portfolio and make your recommendations in an objective manner. Try hard to make his portfolio profitable. Nothing wrong in that. But just to make his portfolio profitable, don't suppress the other person's portfolio. Right? And whenever we are talking about any kind of advisory activity, so look at the suitability. Don't give just a blind blanket recommendation to everyone. Sometimes you go to some shops, right? You will see the salesperson trying to promote always X product without trying to understand the need for the client. Let's say the client is looking for a budget of 10,000 rupees to or 15,000 rupees to purchase a TV. Right? So you go to a shop, the salesperson, without understanding what is your budget level, what is the kind of without asking you all these details, probably if he is getting a commission of some X%, very high commission on a 25,000 worth TV, he'll always try to push for that brand. Compared to this one, without understanding your requirements and risk profile and all these things, you don't try to push the product which you are having. Of course, you can very well give an introduction of your product, but it should not be the case that you are intentionally selling that product without understanding the needs and risk levels of the client. Sometimes in the insurance policies, these kind of sales come up very heavy without understanding the need. Just that you have two policies in your hand, you try to sell those policies probably even to an old person or even to a very youngster also. But the suitability of those plans are different for different people. So those kind of things always assess. Otherwise, it becomes very hard for you to survive in this particular industry. And when you are making a presentation of the performance, make sure that it is fair, accurate, and complete. Any performance, let's say mutual funds, last 5 years, this has been the return. There is a difference in saying, okay, in the last 5 years, the average return of mutual funds has been, let's say, some 15%, versus mutual funds give 15% return. There is a difference between these two statements. Right? In the last 5 years, mutual funds on an average have given 15% return, versus mutual funds give 15% return. Right? So there is a difference in the way you are presenting. The first one is looking like a fact. Probably you can support it with a proof in case you have done some analysis on them. Whereas the second one is more of a misrepresentation. Right? Mutual funds have given, but is it guaranteed that they will give in the future also? No one knows. They may give more than 15, they may give less than 15. There is a risk angle associated in that. So that information of overstay, or probably sometimes we in the process of boasting about our company, we try to give some high numbers. We have already acquired 40 plus clients. This many crores of portfolio is managed by us. Don't give falsy quote, and so that's where you have to see the sales perspective versus, see, whenever any presentation we are making, the sales side always wants to be fully expressive, right? But at the same time, make sure that by making these kind of misrepresentation, the other party is getting influenced in a wrong way. Those things should be avoided to a large extent possible. So make sure that whenever you are trying to present whatever was your achievement, give it in a better figure rather than a sales figure. Not as a sales oriented kind of a figure. Last 5 years we were able to achieve this much. Never say that. Probably that's a typical way I can look at the business schools. Placement assurance, right? Probably last year 100% of our students were placed, versus our students get placed every year. We provide placement to our students. There's a difference between these two words. Probably last year all of them got placed is a fact, whereas this year it's not a fact. I mean, probably you are thinking that you can do it. So probably present it, because last year we were able to place everyone. We are hoping that this year also we can place everyone, rather than making a sales oriented statement, 100% placement to all our participants. Don't use it as a sales material. That's a kind of violation of the ethic. So that is what they should not misrepresent the past performance or reasonably expected performance, and should not state the ability to achieve a rate of return. Just because last year we have achieved 20% return, don't promise that you will achieve 20% return next year. Last year you might have achieved because of various considerations. This year you may or may not achieve. Right? Probably stating it as we have achieved is much different from stating it that we will achieve. Let the person decide, okay, this guy has a chance to achieve because he has achieved it. Right? Sachin Tendulkar never comes to a match saying this match I will score a century. But people expect from him that he scores a century, because in his past, as a part of his achievement, they are looking at, okay, in these number of matches he has scored these many centuries. So the expectations will be high on Sachin Tendulkar to score a century rather than some tailender to score a century. Right? Okay. Another important thing is preservation of the confidentiality of your client. Right? In most of the professions we talk about this. Especially, don't disclose the investment portfolio of client 1 with client 2, because sometimes it may give a leverage. Okay, you are managing this particular client, so you can talk about it not at any level of detail, but probably on a very periphery note. So especially about your current, former, prospective, and if the client says as a part of that agreement, my details, my investment details, or even I being a client of yours should not be disclosed anywhere, then you should not disclose that also. That X is my client. Even that information should not be there unless some illegal activity, some police information, police comes for investigation and they ask about the investment portfolio of the client. In those cases, especially when there is a legal kind of thing involved, that is where we are disclosing the information, but not to the competitors and those kind of scenarios. So illegal activities by the client are there, then you have to report all the activities to the legal sources. Then coming to the employer's part, act for the benefit of the employer and don't fool your employer with your skills and abilities, and don't cause any other kind of reputational issues or any kind of other harm to your employer. No activity should be involved which could bring damage to the firm or anything. And always the order, as I said, client, employer, and the personal. This order has to be maintained. And it doesn't mean that, okay, that's where it even clarifies that it doesn't mean that always put employer's interest ahead of the family obligation. That's not the case. Only as far as the investment part is concerned. It doesn't mean that you should not go on a vacation, right? The employer has asked you to work, you wanted to go on a vacation. They are HR issues. They are nothing to do with the ethics here. They are nothing to do with the professional standard. Of course, the intensity could be different. If the employer really feels now there is something really challenging for us and you can't go, in that case, probably the work comes ahead of the personal or family obligation. So because it's a matter of how you balance your professional work versus the personal work. Sometimes, okay, you have to go on a vacation. So probably if you can plan it much ahead, take out whatever has to be done during that vacation period, plan out, do it much before, or delegate the responsibilities to do a proper knowledge transfer to the other guys who are below you. Take proper delegate in a proper manner across the parties, and finally be available on the phone or some other sources to your team in case some kind of an emergency crops up. So it's all about how you balance and how you react to that personal vacation plan. It doesn't mean that you should never take a vacation, then only you are considered as employer first and personal next. That doesn't mean the case, right? Work life balance is always existing, but sometimes how you react to it is the key differentiator there. And independent practice, you are doing some kind of what you call part-time kind of job somewhere else, you can do it, but provide all details to your employer. Even in your employment letters, you will find that. So in some cases, they'll say you should not do any kind of part-time jobs or anything, which is kind of a competition to the existing job, right? So probably if you are in some kind of investment profession or something, As a part-time job, you can say some tuitions to the school children. They don't stop you from that. But as a part-time job, if you start attracting some of the clients to your own personal, that is a violation. Sometimes we see with, at least I have observed with some of the support staff of some famous brand companies. Let's say I call Samsung AC service center. The service person comes, typically does the service, and after that he gives his personal mobile number to you. If at all you have any other complaint, you just give me a call directly rather than calling to the service center. I can do it for $100 lesser for you. The same thing we are trying to apply it to this example. Sometimes most regularly it happens with cab drivers. You book any cab, right? Once you reach the destination, he'll give his personal mobile number to you and say you call me directly. I'll charge $100 lesser for you, right? So these kind of things, if we look at it in detail, it's a kind of violation of the duty. Means you are doing your part-time duty, part-time job, which is reasonably compromising on the revenues of your customer, of your employer. That is treated as a violation. And when you leave an employer, when you quit your job, right, until the last minute, work for your employer. Sometimes the moment we put our papers down, we start behaving as if we are moving out and we don't work, and probably we are negligent in our duties. Let that not be the case. Even that goes as a part of the violation itself. And duty to one employer may be violated in order to protect the clients or the integrity of the market. This is allowed. In order to benefit your client, if you are going against your employer, that's still fine. Right? That's a kind of, employer is not willing to do this. But for the client, if you feel that everything is legitimate, logical and all those things, you can very well go ahead with that. And additional compensation arrangements, and as long as they don't create a conflict of interest, they are still fine. But if they are creating a conflict of interest, or they are making you compromise on the objectivity in the making of decision, you should not go forward with that. So compensations could be direct or indirect compensation from the client or any other parties. Direct could be the full cash settlement. Indirect could be some other offers that you are going to get out of that assignment. So, and in case you are supervisors, you have to make sure that your team also completely abides to all these things. Even if any member of your team is violating, you will be held responsible. In some of the cases, you might have observed that if one of the employee has done some mistake in a company, the case is filed against the CEO, not along with the employee. So many times CEOs of big companies had to go to court just because one of their employee has done something wrong. The reason being, as a supervisor, you are held responsible for any kind of a mistake or something wrong happening within the premises of your company, or from your employees. If something is going wrong, even you are responsible as a supervisor for that. So they have to. There is an obligation to bring an inadequate compliance system. Anywhere some compliance issues are there, make sure that all those things are brought to the management, and some corrective actions and all these things are initiated against them.